What's up, guys? This is James from the Timur podcast, and today I've got another video for the mod Tsardoms 1448 Fall of Constantinople, which was made for the game Medieval 2 Total War. And as that's my favorite game and has been for about 300 years now, this mod is my favorite mod, and what I've been doing is kind of showcasing a couple of different factions, and hopefully I'll make it through all of them. But today I want to look at the Knights of St. John, or also called Rhodes. So this is a really interesting faction, and as you can see, they're situated down here in southeastern Anatolia, around Rhodes, their capital, along with a few other island strongholds. There we go. So let's take a look at them. You start with 3 settlements, which is not good, because if we take a look, your primary enemies are these guys, the Ottoman Empire, and yeah, they start with 33 settlements, way more powerful than you. They can crush you pretty easily in the beginning of the game if you're not too careful. Thankfully, they do have a lot of other enemies, so they might be distracted. But you're also at war with the Emirate of Karaman over here in eastern Anatolia, or southern Anatolia, I should say, and they can be a pain as well, even though they're much smaller. So 3 settlements is not great. Religion, you are Catholic. Obviously, you are a crusading order. You are allies with the Papal States, and you are at war with the Ottomans. And I'm pretty sure you're at war with these guys as well. That should be listed. Okay, so as for their background history, I will scroll through this in case you want to pause and read it. But it is basically the end of the crusading era in the Middle East. They've been pushed out of Outremer for pretty much the most part. I don't think they have anything there right now. The Kingdom of Cyprus over here is still commanded by Crusaders, but not you. And the Hospitallers of Knights of St. John, they have been in southern Anatolia for a while now. One of their biggest fortresses, Smyrna or Izmir, was destroyed by Tamerlane, it says here right now, or Timur the Lame, who my podcast is about. And as such, that was a big blow. You're kind of reeling from that. You still have a nice hold in Rhodes, but it's definitely not a great time to be a Knights Hospitaller. More history, you also have to look out for the Mamluks, although they're not on this map. I believe they do show up. So there's a lot that could be hurting you. All the Muslim factions, well, 2 of the 3 of them hate you for obvious reasons, and then there are also a lot of pesky Italian factions, as well as the Byzantines themselves, who might be your enemies if you're not too careful. So, long game, you need to hold 30 regions, including all of these. Of note would be the islands you start with, Constantinople up here, as well as Cyprus down here, held by Crusaders, but they show up as rebels in this game. And then for the short game, you only need 12 regions, so that can be done pretty easily, I would say. That is that. For their strengths, excellent heavy infantry and heavy knightly cavalry, good selection of high quality medium infantry, ample raiding opportunities. Yes, that's definitely interesting. Weaknesses, lack of good quality light infantry and cavalry, limited number of knights available far away from allies, and dependent on Western rosters. Yeah, I would say all of this is pretty accurate. I just finished my Knights Hospitaller campaign, and it was a blast. I had a lot of fun with it. But there are a few things I noticed, so let's jump into the campaign map and take a look at this faction. Alright, so jumping into the campaign map, this is what you will see right away. There's just another welcome screen from the mod developers, as well as some more history, which is nice, so I will scroll through that. And this is where you are at. So right away you can see that you are wedged over here on these islands, with the Turks controlling most of Anatolia. You do have some nice settlements, though, I will say that. So obviously we have Rhodes here. You have a few smaller settlements scattered across the islands. But back to Rhodes. This is quite a nice city. It's got some nice bonuses. It starts off with cannon towers, which is really nice for defense. Another thing to note is you can only get to Rhodes via ships. There's no longer a land bridge to connect you to the main Anatolian land, which is nice. I do like that change. But your other island over here, you can just walk across. So, okay, going back to Rhodes, it's a nice city. You can train some really nice units right away, which you can see. Another thing to note is the Hospitallers are a Teutonic style faction, meaning they don't have family trees. They have, I don't know what it's called, just generals, I would say, and you get a Grand Master in charge of all of them. So you can actually just train. You can train a general every 15 turns. They're usually not great, but they're okay typically. So yeah, you can train some nice units right off the bat, as well as build some good things. I'll get rid of him. You start off with, yeah, like I said, a nice stack here. You start with a really nice navy as well. You got Laternas and war galleys. And this guy's actually not half bad for being an admiral, which is nice because you're definitely, as an island nation, and as well as a faction that can do raiding, which I'll talk about a little later, a powerful navy is nice to have. It is a little expensive though, so you do have to watch out for that. Something to just keep in mind. Okay, for agents, you start with quite a few. You've got a nice bishop over here. Actually, he's not that great. A little surprising. A diplomat. I do like... this mod is so great. You got a biography for your diplomat. That's just crazy. An assassin, and a spy. And even the spy has a biography. That's crazy. This mod is so good. Yeah, so those are your agents, and then over here you have a general and the city of Kos, or the island of Kos, and it's pretty small, 1,500. It's nice to have though. Any settlement you can have in the beginning of the game is good. And then Petronium on the main island. This also starts with cannon towers, which is good because this will likely be your first tier of defense against the Turks. And it's not quite a citadel, but it is a fortress, so you can still train some nice units. And you start off with quite a few good units, I would say, especially your Petardiers, or Petardiers, I don't know how to say that, it's French, I would assume. And these guys can do you wonders, and we'll talk about more about them later. Then, the other nice thing about the Hospitallers is you start with some incredible generals. So if we look at our Grand Master, he is old, but plenty of command, chivalry, authority, and that's pretty nice to start with. You can grow your cities. That's what chivalry typically does, is it increases population growth. Down here you have Pierre de this guy, and he's pretty good too. I'd say very good. Over here, you have this man, quite a lot of chivalry. This guy, not so much, but he's loyal, so you can definitely use him as a general. In my campaign, he became one of my best generals for a while. And then over here, another very loyal soldier. So, yeah, you start off with a nice group of generals, and you're able to train another one right off the bat. So, moving on. We'll take a look at your enemies and whatnot, but one thing that the Hospitallers struggle with, I would say, especially early game, is money. You only start with 5,000, and as you can see, Rhodes is an okay settlement with money, but your other settlements aren't too lucrative. So money is something you're definitely going to want to be watching out for. Oh, we'll look at Papal standing. The Pope loves you. I mean, yeah, you're the Crusaders. You can crawl a crusade pretty much right off the bat if you want to. There's some nice targets there if you want. Diplomacy. Yes, I was right. You do start at war with the Emirate of Karaman. And you are allies with the Papal States. You are at war against the Ottomans. So, not too bad. But the other nice thing is pretty much everybody loves you. The Catholic factions especially, just going through here, they all love you. Not so much with the Orthodox factions. And then once we get down to the Islamic factions, the Ottomans hate you. Karaman hates you. Crimean kind of hates you. But what is interesting is, never mind, I take that back. In my game, these guys, they changed. They liked me right off the bat after a few turns because I was at war with their enemies. I actually allied with them. Anyway, that's... I guess you could do that if you want. And then if you look down here, these are the settlements you have to hold, including Constantinople, although it doesn't really show up here. So let's toggle off the Fog of War and take a look. The nice thing is you do start off at war with the Turks, but they're not nearby. It takes a while for their big armies, which they do have a lot of. It takes a while. Like, look at that. That's scary. It takes them quite a few turns to march down to you. So you have, I would say, 3 to 6 turns, depending on how the game goes, to move into Turkish lands, should you want to. And that's what I would recommend. I would try and take as many of these cities as possible. In my campaign, I was able to take this city and then these two before their giant stack of armies arrived. One settlement I would definitely recommend taking is this one right here. It's very rich. It has a lot of money, and you need as much money as you can get because you don't make much, and you need soldiers. You need so many soldiers because the Turks are coming. So yeah, your lands are pretty much entirely surrounded by the Turks in Anatolia. There are no rebel settlements near you. The only rebel settlement are the Crusaders over here on Cyprus, and it's a full stack army, or almost, and it's a pretty good one. It's hard to beat if you're not too careful. Over here, the Emirate of Karaman, you're at war with them. They have quite a ways. They're a ways away from you, but if you push the Turks, just be careful not to push too far, because then Karaman will likely attack you. Then to the west, we get some Aegean islands held by various Italian states. So down here is Venice. Crete is very lucrative. You can just see all of the trade going out to the port. Be careful when you take this settlement. Yeah, I'll give it away. Once you take Crete for the first time, or once any faction takes Crete for the first time, a huge Venetian army spawns a few turns later to try and recapture it. So just keep in mind that not only are you going to have to take it, but then you have to hold it. It is very much worth it, though. This is a rich island, and you get 3 forts to kind of stock up too. Plus, you get access to Cretan archers, one of the best archer units in the game. And one thing we'll talk about later is you don't have the best missile units right away, but Cretan archers are worth it. Another little tip I learned is once mercenaries are available, it takes about 10-11 turns for them to become available. This island right here is technically Crete, so you can hire mercenaries, you can hire Cretan archers from this island. You don't have to go all the way down to Crete if you haven't taken it yet. A little hint. Then up here on Naxos, we have the Venetians as well. Moving up, the Genoese have these 2 islands, Chios and Lesbos, and then the Byzantines are up here. And then the Genoese are up here as well. So a lot of Italian islands. They are somewhat lucrative islands. Well, Crete is very lucrative. The islands, they can be, depending on who holds them. But it takes a little while to build them up. And then over here, over in the Mauryan Peninsula, a lot of Byzantines, a lot of Greeks. The Venetians have a hold here, and then they're over here in Euboea. And then the Florentines are actually here holding Athens. This might be a nice early target because they only have 1 settlement here. In my playthroughs, Florence is often excommunicated, so you can probably attack them eventually with no repercussions. But the Turks are over here, and they start with some huge armies. So if you expand into here, you will still have to fight the Ottomans. And then the Despotate of Epirus is over here as well. Potential ally, maybe, potential enemy. It depends. So that's pretty much it in your initial game. So what else is there to talk about? Well, I have two things I want to cover. First is, so being that this mod is called The Fall of Constantinople, you can expect that the Ottoman Turks are powerful. And they certainly are. They are very, very powerful in this mod, especially if you use the scripts that give them full armies every few turns, every like 15 or 30 turns, something like that. Which I definitely recommend. It makes it feel more historical because the AI for this game is not the best. However, the problem is just the coding for Medieval 2, I would guess. I'm not a coder or a modder, but it can only go so far. And if you look at this map down here, seeing that the Ottomans start with so much territory and are so powerful, the AI thinks that the Ottomans should be pushovers, essentially, when it comes to diplomacy. So you can actually cheese the Ottoman AI quite a bit by offering peace terms with them, and they will accept almost always. I've only had a few games where the Ottomans have said no to peace terms. Usually they're very grateful that you're offering ceasefires. I don't know why that's why the AI works the way it does, but it is. So let's see if I can actually get this diplomat over to the Ottomans to show you. Okay, I can. So I'm at war with the Ottomans, and you would think that if I offered them a peace deal, they would just laugh in my face because I'm so weak compared to them. But the way it turns out is it's actually very generous. So what you can do is you can offer them trade rights and a ceasefire, and let's say a regular tribute, 10 turns, whoops, not that long, 10 turns, give me 4,000 gold at 10 turns. It's still, oh wait, I'm offering it. Anyway, you can get a lot of money from them. You can also get settlements from them. So if you want to cheese the game, you can keep the Ottomans at bay with diplomacy, and every time they attack you, I would just keep a diplomat right by one of their cities, so you can say, hey, I want a ceasefire, and they'll say, okay, thank you. And you say, hey, I want a ceasefire, and I want you to give me a ton of money, and they'll still say, okay, thank you. So it's kind of a way to cheese the AI and make this mod a lot easier. It's, I don't know, it kind of depends with you what you want to do. In my game that I'll show you later with the Hospitallers, I did use that strategy a little bit. I also let them attack me at times. But what I have planned next is I'm going to play as the Despotate of Epirus, who starts off in a similar position with only 3 settlements, and they're immediately usually attacked by the Ottomans. And I'm going to play that game without taking advantage of that AI bug and see how it goes. I'm expecting it'll be a lot harder of a campaign, but we will see. Alright, there's one more thing I'm going to show you with the campaign map as the Hospitallers, and that requires me to end a turn, so I will see you in a second. Okay, so I'm on turn 2 now, and with turn 2 you are given 2 more scripts to choose from, one of them being the raiding scripts. And with the raiding scripts, well, you can pause and read it. It would do a better job at explaining than me. But basically, seafaring factions, you are considered one of these seafaring factions, which means that if you attack an enemy's port, there's a small chance that you will, in a way, loot it and get some more money. Also land raids, which are kind of neat. These kind of glitch out for me sometimes. So it's up to you if you want to accept or decline, obviously. Usually I decline, just because it's glitched out on me a lot. Oh, and then the Strong Ottoman Empire is another script. Basically what I was saying earlier, it gives them money and armies to keep them strong because the AI is stupid, and I always accept that because I like the history that it brings. Anyway, to the port blocking, there is a way you can abuse this as well, and that is to just, since it's a small chance, if this was a port, let's say, you could just lay siege to it, or block it. If it doesn't give you money, move away. Block it, gives you another roll of the dice, and you can just keep doing this, and you can get quite a bit of money from doing that. At least in my game. I don't know if they fix that or whatnot, but there are so many limitations to Medieval 2. kind of an ancient game. It's crazy that there are people still making mods and making such incredible mods at that. So I think that's about it. I feel like I'm forgetting one more thing, but we'll get. I'll list it if it comes to that. Yeah, so let's jump into the battle map and take a look at the roster. Alright, so we are over here on the battle map, and I'm going to have to do this a little bit differently than we normally do because the Hospitaller roster is quite strange in a few ways. They are very isolated from their European counterparts, so in a lot of ways they have to rely on mercenaries and regional troops more so. So we're going to start by looking at your core units, your Hospitaller Crusader units, because I would definitely say these are your best units. You want to rely on them as much as possible. So, and then we'll just take it from there. I might have to do 2 different army compositions just to show everybody you can recruit. So first of all is your General's Bodyguard. These guys look amazing. I love the rounded shields. You can tell that they are heavily armored, and if we look at the stats, yeah. So they inspire nearby troops, excellent morale, powerful charge, soldiers 23, charge bonus of 14 is definitely great, but a total defense of almost 40 is amazing. These guys are tanks, and the Turks and the other factions nearby you do have some heavily armored cavalry, but it's so nice that your general's unit starts off with a defense of 40. So these guys are definitely great. I use them in battle. For some armies, I don't like relying on the general units just because I don't want my general to die. But for these guys, I try to use them because they're elite heavy cavalry right off the bat. Speaking of elite heavy cavalry, you get the Hospitaller Knights. Excellent morale, powerful charge. They're not quite as armored, but they are still killing machines, and they have a better charge bonus too. 18 is very nice. Charge bonus, or a total defense of 31 is very, very respectable. And they're also, a nice little thing about crusading units is they're typically cheaper than they would normally be. It doesn't show here. Recruitment costs, they're still expensive, but they only cost, the upkeep is 400, I think, for these guys, rather than the 500 or 600 it usually is for heavy cavalry. So, still expensive, don't get me wrong, but definitely better than what it could be. Alright, so, and actually let's just get a better look at these guys. They're so well designed, love it. And then we get the kind of medium cavalry, light cavalry, and these are the Hospitaller Brother-in-Arms. Excellent morale. Another thing about religious troops is they usually have much better morale than normally. So for a light cavalry early game unit, you might expect good morale, maybe even no morale, but these guys have excellent morale, which means they're not gonna, they can fight longer. They're not gonna run away as easily. Powerful charge is good. Attack of 4, charge bonus 11, total defense of 18. Not as good, obviously, but they're a light cavalry, and they are much cheaper to upkeep too. So I definitely love relying on these guys. All right, moving on to your infantry, kind of your lower tier, more easier to recruit, I should say, are your Hospitaller Sergeants. And I really like these guys. They're not the best, per se. A total defense of 12. Only 6 of that being armor, which means that arrows will typically chew these guys up, even low-tier arrows. But an attack of 6, charge bonus of 5, and that is effective against armor and bonus fighting against cavalry. So if you can get these guys where they need to be, attacking enemy cavalry or support roles, they'll do a pretty good job. And then the other nice thing about them is they are dirt cheap, and it doesn't really show here, but their upkeep is like 112, I think, which is insane. That's like militia tier pricing for a pretty average unit, which, I mean, I'm kind of underselling them by saying average, because in the right situation, these guys can do very well. So I typically always recruit as many of these guys as I can. I don't rely on them. They only have good morale. They will break and they will get killed, but in the right situation, they can do wonders. But a much more reliable unit are the dismounted Brothers-in-Arms, a sword and board unit. but much better than their counterparts, again, because they have good stamina, and stamina is very rare in this mod. So for a sword and board unit, that's awesome. And excellent morale is great. 5 attack is kind of average, charge bonus of 4, kind of average, maybe a little high. Total defense of 20 is, I would say it's average for swordsmen at this level. But again, it doesn't show, but their upkeep cost is nothing. We'll take a look at sort of some of their upkeeps if I can remember. But just very cheap units. So these guys, I love recruiting as many of them as possible just because they're so cheap. And then also as swordsmen, they can give access to the Swordsman Guild pretty easily, which can upgrade your attack, which would mean it would go up from a 5 to a 6, so a nice little bonus. And then we get to your elite units, I would say, and this is one of my favorite units in the mod as a whole, and that is the Dismounted Hospitaller Knights. And they're basically just the swordsmen, but better in every way. Effective against armor, excellent morale, good stamina, they are elite. Attack of 6, which is effective against armor, 2, very nice. Total defense of 28. They are tanks. They will fight for a long time. Their only downside is they are a little pricey, but again, still not as pricey as their counterparts. And we'll look at that. So I do like to pick these up. I think a 400 upkeep or 350, I can't remember, something like that. And other factions, that would be a upkeep of 400 or 500, maybe even 600. So they are cheaper, which is really nice. The only thing I would say these guys' weaknesses are, and it's a weakness for really any unit, is cavalry charges. They don't have much defense against a charge, so cavalry charges will wreck them. But if you put these guys on a wall defending, or even taking a wall, there's not much that can defeat them. They're so good. And then you get a special unit, and first of all, I just love how these guys look with their Zweihander and their halberdiers, their capes with the cross. Oh, it's so cool. One of my other favorite units in this mod, the Dismounted Knights of the Grand Cross. Inspires nearby troops, bonus fighting cavalry, very good stamina, which is so rare in this mod, and excellent morale. They are exceptional, one of the best units in the game, I would say. Attack of 14 is insane, charge bonus of 7. So if you manage to charge these guys into, say, an enemy cavalry unit, they will just wreck them. And a total defense of 28, 18 of that being armor is just so overpowered. Not overpowered. It's amazing. It's so good. Again, the only bad thing about these guys is they take... Oh, no, you actually can recruit them in one turn, which is rare for an elite unit. They're a little pricey for upkeep, we'll see later, but you can only recruit them in Rhodes. That's the only place. You might be able to recruit them in Constantinople. I don't think so. I think it's only Rhodes. But get these guys whenever you can. They will not let you down. They're so good. I had them rout on me once, but that was probably over the course of 50 battles. And that was kind of my fault too. I put them in that position. These boys, they'll have your back, and they'll look incredible while doing so. And then, so one thing you might notice, and I would say one of the weaknesses for the Hospitallers is they don't have good polearm infantry. And I can't tell you how many battles I was in with the Hospitallers where I had amazing infantry. I went into a battle and I thought my infantry will carry me through, but then the enemy had lots of melee cavalry, and those charges from the enemy cavalry will wreck your troops, as they did to me, because nothing can stop a cavalry charge except for other cavalry or pole arms. So that is a problem for the Hospitallers, and they also have another weakness, which I'll get to in a minute. But you do have access to these guys, the Piquia infantry, another French word. I don't know how to say that. And they're okay, I would say. But as the Hospitallers, you have to take any polearm you can get. So I would say they're very good for you. And they're decent. Good morale is nice. Very long spears, all the stuff that comes with spearmen, or pikemen, I mean. And the other nice thing is there are 250 men in a unit, which is quite a bit. You can just see how much larger it is. So even when you lose some, they are still very effective just because of how many they are. They also have a nice armor of 8. Total defense of 11 is not great, but it's okay. Again, you have to take what you can get. Total defense, or attack of 2 is not good, but for pike units, it's technically much better than a 2 just because of how the animation works for these guys. And again, their main job is just to stop enemy cavalry units from charging into you. So what I would do is I would group up my men like this. So my pikemen stop the stop the cavalry, and then whoever other unit I have, they do the actual killing. So a good unit. They are a little pricey, not horrible actually. For the amount of men you get, it's not horrible. They do take 3 turns, I believe, to recruit, so a little while. They can only be recruited in certain regions. Your home regions, southern Italy, maybe some like eastern French regions. I don't know exactly. So they are region locked, and they are script locked too, which means you can only recruit them after a certain script goes through, which I think goes around turn 50 it happens, so you have to wait a while before you can even train these guys. Pole arms are a weakness of the Knights Hospitallers, so just keep that in mind. But then another amazing unit I mentioned earlier, the Petiadier, or whatever you say, whatever French word that is. I took French for 2 years and I have no idea. So Nafatoon, essentially, effective against armor, frighten nearby enemy, good morale. It says average. Now, these guys will change the course of a battle, especially in siege battles. These guys can rack up hundreds of kills if used well. If you don't know how to use them, start a custom battle and just play around with them for a while because they are incredible. Attack of 15. They basically just throw fire bombs that will eliminate anything in its path and will cause havoc in the enemy troops. So rely on these guys, especially when you're defending against, say, the Ottomans or anyone, but especially the Ottomans. They will just destroy. So that's kind of it for your core hospitaller units, I would say. But then you have access to a lot of regional units, as well as some other units, which I'll pull up later. So all of these guys you can get pretty much at the beginning of the game also. You start off with your kind of Greek town watch. These guys are not good at all. Attack of 1, charge bonus of 2, total defense of 7, but they are cheap. Yeah, recruitable in Byzantine regions. I think it's a 66 cost upkeep, which is nothing, and they have free upkeep in settlements where you can train them, so that's nice, but they will rout very easily. They're not a unit to be relied on for anything other than garrison, really. And then the upgrade to them are your Kontoratoi spearmen, something like that, I would guess. But yeah, they're just a basic spearmen unit. I do use these guys in battle occasionally because spears are nice to have in a cavalry-heavy region fighting the Islamic powers. Spears are nice to have. They're also very cheap. I think it's 112 upkeep, which is not bad at all. A 2 attack is not good, but they do have a bonus fighting cavalry, so they can do their job. They do not have great morale, so you just have to watch out for that. But again, if you go back to these guys, inspires nearby troops. If you put them here together, they could definitely pack a punch. Or right behind, let the spearmen absorb the cavalry charges, take their losses. They're just cheap spearmen, and then charge your infantry in. A good unit. I like them. They're not great. Very average. Yeah, they're militia, but I like having them. And they do have free upkeep in cities that can train them. And then the kind of the Islamic or Anatolian counterpart to that would be your spearmen. And they're kind of like these guys, just pretty terrible. Just peasant spearmen, essentially. And yeah, recruitable in Anatolian regions. They do have free upkeep, which is nice. But other than that, there is nothing really to note, other than I do like these shield designs. Very neat. And then another unit you get access to are the Arab Auxiliaries. I can never say that word. I'm not going to even try. And looking at them, there's not too much that's special. They have no abilities. Quality average. Type mercenary, high upkeep. Yeah, they have an upkeep of 300, I believe, which is pretty pricey. But they're just a basic sword and board unit, which you can get pretty easily by making a mercenary quarter. They look awesome. I love these mail shirts. That looks great. They're obviously way worse than the other swordsmen you have access to. But if you're in a pinch, if the Ottomans are laying siege to you, or about to, and you need one more unit to kind of bolster your ranks, these guys are not the worst choice. They can come in handy in a pinch. Now, the other big weakness of the Hospitallers, I would say, is missile units. You do not have any core missile units, as we saw earlier. Pretty much all of your missile units come from mercenaries or regions. And that's not good because other than cavalry, missiles can be devastating in this game. One unit you do start having access to are the Rhodian crossbowmen. Your capital is in Rhodes, so these guys you can pick up there. You can recruit them as well as pick up mercenaries, and they're okay. Quality militia. They do have free upkeep in the right regions. Let's see what it says. Recruitable in Rhodes. They're also recruitable in other regions too, but I think anyway. I don't remember offhand. Yeah, they're peasant crossbowmen essentially. A melee attack of 3. That's a little higher than normal peasant crossbowmen, so that's nice. A missile attack of 8. That can do damage. I mean, they're crossbowmen. Any crossbow can get some kills. Total defense of 6 though. Most of that being defense, meaning any type of missile will devastate these guys. But again, they are dirt cheap. I want to say it's 112 upkeep or something. So if you need some missile units to kind of bolster your ranks, to fire back at the horse archers, they're not the worst pick. I usually just use them for garrisoning, but hey, do what you want. Another cheap unit, kind of the counterpart to these guys, are your... I'm not going to try and say that. Your peasant archers from Byzantine regions, I believe. Yep, Byzantine regions. And they're just peasant archers. Poor morale, missile attack of 2. They're terrible, but they're cheap. If you need missiles, you can pick them up. Their range is terrible. Their morale is terrible. Their stats are terrible. They will do nothing but die, but they are there if you want them. Yeah, I really sold them, didn't I? They got a cool design. I like these fur coats. All right, moving on. And then kind of the Anatolian counterpart are these guys. They are better. I do train these guys if I need them. Peasant militia, free upkeep in Anatolian regions, melee attack of 2, missile attack of 2, so that's pretty much the same, but a higher defense. Whoops, wrong guys. A defense of 7 with a shield is not bad. Oh, no, it is terrible, but compared to these guys, it is definitely an upgrade. And I love the shields on the back. That's such a cool look. Yeah, so moving on. The direct upgrade is the Turkmen bowmen, and these guys I do recruit quite a bit because they're half decent archers. Actually, I would say better than that. They're good archers. I will give these guys a good. They have saved me many times just because they have long-range missiles. So you can shoot back at the horse archers with these guys. They will get kills. Combat bonus in woods, can use flaming missiles, which can be handy. Good morale and good stamina. Those are both rare for archers, especially like mid-tier archers. So yeah, I do like these guys now that I think about it. I like them a lot. Total defense of 12 is good. Most of that is defense skill, so arrows and crossbows will tear these guys up, but in a melee they can hold their own for a little while, especially with a melee attack of 4. Missile attack of 5 is good. It's fine, kind of average for bowmen. Actually, no, what am I saying? It's better than average. So I do love these guys. You can only get them in Anatolian regions, but I do like these guys a lot. They also have free upkeep, which is nice, and their design is awesome. I love this quiver hanging on their back. Another great thing about this mod is for most of the archer units, the actual drawback of the bow is animated. In Vanilla Total War, Vanilla Medieval 2, it is not animated, but they added the animation, which is just awesome. And then finally, you do have a few cavalry units you can recruit. You have the Arab cavalry. They're expensive. I don't remember offhand. I just remember that they're expensive. But good morale, powerful charge, yeah, quality average. They can... I mean, cavalry is cavalry. They will get you kills. And a charge bonus of 11 is nice. Total defense of 14 is pretty good, especially since 8 of that is armor. And their design is awesome. So if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. Moving on, you also get kind of the Anatolian version. Something like that. Lancers, good morale, powerful charge. They're about the same stats. Just a good unit. Quality average, yeah, they're a light medium cavalry. I do like them. Again, any cavalry is good cavalry, and that's about that. I love the triangle shields; they look awesome. And then you get another unit I really like, and that is the Turcopole horse archers. So these are oftentimes Christian Arabs or Christian Turks, and they serve as your horse archers. And being that you are surrounded by horse archer factions, the Karaman Emirate and the Ottomans, horse archers are nice to have. And good morale, good stamina, very nice. Missile attack of 4 is okay. Total defense of 10 is not great, but a melee of 5 is respectable. Charge bonus of 6 is good. So once they run out of arrows, they can actually do some melee damage. And again, their design is just beautiful. So that is pretty much that. There are some more units I want to show you, so let me get that real quick. Okay, because there are just so many different units available to the Knights Hospitallers, I pulled up a whole bunch more that you can train, a lot of them right off the bat. So one of them, I should have included these guys in the other one, but the Rhodian Marinari, something like that. These guys are just a peasant militia unit. They have free upkeep. They're very cheap, but they can actually do a little bit more damage than you might expect from militia, because good stamina, very nice, effective against armor, and bonus fighting cavalry. So you can see this kind of like halberd glaive like weapon they have here. Their defense is terrible. It's all they don't have any armor despite a few of them having helmets. But an attack of 3 and a charge bonus of 4 added together, that's a 7. Duh. Wow, that is bonus fighting cavalry effective against armor. They're terrible troops, but they can actually do a little bit of damage in the right situation. So I do train these guys occasionally. They're nice to have, but they are region locked. You can only get them around roads or oh no, that's not true. I think you can get them from ports now that I think about it. So any coastal regions, it says. Okay, we'll go with that. Yeah, a nice little unit. Another unit I love, and most factions can get these guys in Anatolian regions. It doesn't say, actually. Good morale, good stamina, very nice for kind of a medium tier infantry unit. Total defense of 13 is not great, especially since 7 of that is defense skill, meaning missiles can mess these guys up. Melee attack of 4 is fine, but a missile attack of 14 is devastating because they are javelin troops. And those missiles, those javelins can just wreck any heavy infantry or cavalry. So I like to get these guys as much as I can. They're fairly cheap as well, and their armor can be upgraded too, which is nice. So I love these guys. And next we get another unit that a lot of factions can get right off the bat. And I think we've covered them before in our Ragusan look at, but these are the Oarsmen. Good morale, good stamina, bonus fighting cavalry, effective against armor. They're only recruitable in certain regions, but you can get to these regions pretty easily as the Hospitallers. And attack of 6, charge bonus of 5, total defense of 12. They're very similar to that early tier Hospitaller unit we looked at. And again, they're situational. In the right situation, they can do a lot of damage. In the wrong situation, which would be any type of arrow fire, they will die. But again, another good unit that I like to have. Then you get access to French spearmen, and they are good. I like these guys a lot. They're a very nice spear unit. Attack of 4, charge bonus of 4 is good for spears. Total defense of 19 is very good. Good morale, all these bonuses. Yeah, they're superior spearmen. The only downside is they're kind of hard to get. They're region locked. They take a while to train. And they're pricey as well. I think it's a 400 upkeep, so that's very, very pricey for good infantry, typically. But hey, you need infantry, especially, well, you don't need infantry, but you need spearmen, and they are good spearmen. We're going to move through this pretty quickly, but you have access to dismounted Frankish knights, as a lot of Catholic factions do. We'll cover these guys more, but just a great sword and board unit. Good stamina, excellent morale. These stats do not lie. Total defense of 27, they are tanks. Attack of 7 is very good for sword units. They get free upkeep in the right settlements with the right buildings. The only downside is they are very expensive, which maybe we'll take a look at. That's pretty much it. They look awesome. We'll cover them in other videos because a lot of factions have access to them. Moving on, the Latin crossbowmen. I love how these guys look. I really love their armor. Again, as Venice, or not Venice, what am I saying? You lack a lot of missile units as roads, so these guys are nice to have. They're not great, they're average, but long-range missiles is nice. A missile attack of 10 is very nice. Total defense of 13 it's fine, especially since 9 of that is armor. So I typically pick these guys up when I can. They're a little pricey, not horrible. They are region locked, of course, but you're going to need missile units, and these guys are a pretty good option. Another great option is the Cretan archers. I was talking about these guys earlier. They're some of the most renowned archers in history. They are very good. Excellent morale, good stamina, long-range missiles, can use sharpened stakes is awesome. That is so overpowered in this mod. You use these in the defenses of sieges, and not many armies can defeat you. Melee attack of 4 is fine. Missile attack of 7 is very good for bowmen. Total defense of 17 is very nice as well. 8 of that being armor. Get these guys whenever you can. They're worth the price. They will not let you down typically. They're just a great archer unit, and since they can use sharpened stakes, they're worth their weight in gold. Now, they're very hard to get. You can only get them in Crete, Rhodes, and Constantinople. I believe that's wrong. I don't think you can train them in Rhodes, but if you go down to Crete, you can definitely pick them up, and I get them as often as the game allows me. Now, another thing that's available for the Hospitallers, as well as other Catholic factions, and even Orthodox factions, I believe, is you can build certain colonies depending on the city. And there are 3 to choose from. You can only have 1 per city, but you can build Genoese trading colonies, Venetian, or Ragusan. And building these colonies gives you access to specific units from those factions. So if you build a Genoese settlement, you can build Genoese Pavese crossbowmen, a very good crossbow unit. I mean, it's the Genoese, they're known for their crossbows, and long-range missiles, good morale, good stamina, can use sharpened stakes, very nice. Defense is great, missile attack is great, it's just a great unit. The only downside, recruitable in Genoese colonies, the only downside of these guys is they're very expensive, an upkeep of 500, I believe, which is very pricey, so you gotta watch that. But if you want elite crossbowmen as the Hospitallers, you can recruit them. You have to have colonies built up, and you cannot be at war with that faction to train them. I believe if you have them trained, you get to keep them. So if you had a few of these guys and then go to war with Genoa, it doesn't take them away from you, I believe, but to recruit more, you have to be at peace or allied with those factions. Then if you were to build a Venetian colony, you have access to Venetian colonial archers. A great archer unit, one of my favorites, just because you can pretty easily pick these guys up. Good morale, long-range missiles, so they're not quite Cretan archer level, but a missile attack of 6 is very good. Total defense of 17 is very good, and they can use sharpened stakes, which is just so overpowered. Plus, they're a lot cheaper than the crossbowmen. I think that's like 220 upkeep, which compared to 400 or 500, whatever I said, is much better. They do take 3 turns to recruit, though. So crossbowmen are more expensive, 1 turn to recruit. Venetian colonial archers, 3 turns, but cheaper. So it really depends on what you prefer. For me, I often take bows over crossbows just because of the price, but it all depends. And if you want neither of those, you want gunners instead, you can build the Ragusan colonies and get the Cacconi handgunners. Quality average, yeah, I would say they're average. Total defense of 7 means anything will destroy them. Melee attack of 4 is not great, but a missile attack of 20, that is very respectable. That can kill a lot of, that can kill pretty much anything given enough time. So if you want an early gunner unit, you can get these guys, and they can do their job. So that is that. Let's move on to a few cavalry units you also have available, and that is the Frankish Knights. They're kind of the counterpart to the dismounted Frankish Knights, obviously. They're just a great cavalry unit. I mean, they're Frankish Knights. Charge bonus of 18 will kill pretty much anything. Total defense of 28, very nice. Excellent morale, powerful charge, blah blah blah. They're just amazing. You can only recruit them in a few different places, but they do have free upkeep, which is nice. The problem with these guys is their upkeep is 800-ish florins if they don't have free upkeep, if they're outside of the city, which will drain your treasury so fast. And if you have a few units of these, that's pretty devastating. But I mean, they're a heavy cavalry unit. If you have them defending a city, they're free basically to upkeep, and they'll do damage, obviously. And very similarly, we have these guys. They just look so cool. Love their design. Chevalier heavy lancers, some French heavy cavalry, inspire nearby troops and frighten nearby enemy infantry, plus all this other good stuff. So just an upgrade in every way, plus a higher attack as well. They're so good. They can only be recruited in certain regions, and they're also so expensive to upkeep and to train, but they're very expensive, or they're very deadly. That's what I should say. It's late, I'm sorry. And then finally, oh gosh, these guys look so cool. Gendarmes, you have access to them. It takes a while for the script to unlock for them to be recruitable, but it is well worth the wait. Frighten nearby enemy, powerful charge, a total defense of 34 is just, it's so high. Charge bonus of 19, they will just destroy and look good while doing so. So you do have access to them, and I love the Hospitaller, the code is just so good. And then you finally do have access to French arquebusiers. They're only recruitable in certain regions. You do have a few regions where you can train them, and they're pretty good gunners. They're not the best, but they're good. Long range missiles, good morale. That's nice. Total defense of 12 is good. They do have some armor you can kind of see. Melee attack of 5, but a missile attack of 33. That is long range. That's amazing, and that alone is worth the cost of admission for them. So that pretty much wraps it up for the Knights of St. John the Knights of St. John roster. There are more units you can train, obviously, but I would say those are the majority of the ones you'll be using in your campaign, unless you really branch out. But with that, speaking of campaign, let's go look at my most recent Knights of St. John campaign. Alright, so welcome to my campaign. This is my most recent game as the Knights of St. John. As you can see, I'm laying siege to 2 of the last settlements I need. If we take a look at the armies I have, yeah, very nice collection I have here. You can see just the... Oh, I forgot to talk about these guys. Well, we'll talk about them when we talk about the Byzantines, but another great unit. Bad defense. They're javelin cavalry, but missile attack of 12. That is pretty darn good. Yeah, you can see I've gotten some Venetians with me. Laying siege to Constantinople. Gonna easily take that. And then over here, I have another elite military that I got going here. Yeah, one thing you might notice is it is turn 73, which is kind of early for a campaign to be done, because I've pretty much won it. These are the last 2 settlements I need to win the game. So we'll maybe do that in a second. But the other thing you'll notice is I have no money. This whole campaign, I've pretty much had no money. It's I've had to fight on a lot of fronts, and it was expensive. So let's look at our initial settlements. You can see I've built them all up pretty nicely. They do build up pretty well. This guy I put in here, and I believe this is the general that starts right here. I just put him right into Kos. Because of his chivalry and the taxes that I put on low, I was able to build this settlement up real fast, which is nice. Can get some good units there. Petronium. I have swords. So, gosh, what is it? It's so late. Swordsmith's Guild. There we go. So that's nice. Can get some good units here. And then down in Rhodes, I have, yeah, a bunch of dismounted Frankish knights I've got some forts everywhere. And yeah, a nice little selection. So what I did with this campaign first, I think I said, is I pushed against the Turks as fast and as hard as I could. And I was able to take this settlement, Tralais. I don't remember the words change depending on what faction you are when you take it, which is really cool. This mod is so incredible. And then I went up here and took Magnesia as well. And then I might have taken Laodicea. I don't remember, but either way, I pushed against the Turks. And by the time their armies got down to me, which was like turn 7 or turn 8, I sued for peace. And because of that little cheesing the AI thing I told you about earlier, they accepted. And that was pretty much it. I think I got this settlement here. I did, yes. I took Polydorian. I told the Turks that I wanted it in for the peace terms, and they agreed. So I took that. But then the Emirate of Karaman, which is down here, they attacked me because we were bordering. Because I had expanded so quickly, I did not have the troops to defend it. I barely managed to hold on to it with a really nice battle. But then I was thinking, you know what? I'm just going to take out Karaman, which is not what I initially thought I would do, but that's how the game started. So I called a crusade against Konya, and all of Europe responded. About 10 factions sent their armies over. And while the Karamanids were dealing with that, I ate up their other settlements, these 3. The Florentines sacked Konya, they took it, which ended them as a faction. However, with this mod, if the capital city of a dead faction rebels, the faction comes back to life. So that's what happened. The settlement rebelled, the Karamanids came back. I made peace terms with them. We're actually on pretty good terms now, and they've pretty much left me alone. Now, one funny thing I'll show you is for this entire game, the Hungarian Crusader army went over and took this, and now they're just sitting there, and it's like a full stack army, and they've just been sitting there the entire game, which is kind of funny. Anyway, so I had pretty much all of southern Anatolia under my control by turn 20, 25, somewhere around there. And I was at peace with the Muslim factions. I allied with the Kandarids up here. They're almost gone, unfortunately. But yeah, once Anatolia was kind of secure, or my fronts at least, I went down here. I took Cyprus, took it from the Crusaders, which was nice. And by this point, my economy was in shambles because these regions aren't great. I mean, Tralais is pretty good. 3,500 is very decent. So that's nice. But I needed money, and I believed that attacking the Italians would be my next step. So that's what I did. I came down. I took Crete. I took Naxos. All the Venetian lands. I came up here, took the Byzantine lands, or the islands held by the Byzantines, then the Genoese, and then that was pretty much it. I took all these islands. I offered peace to the Genoese and the Venetians and forced them to pay me a lot of money for those peace terms, which they accepted, thankfully. And then I wiped out the Byzantines, which is kind of sad as the Hospitallers to do so, but I did it. And unfortunately, Morea, it isn't the most lucrative area, and it also puts you right next to the Ottomans again. So I had to fight the Ottomans again, and I was able to do so. I pushed up here. I wiped out Epirus. So I took their land. I've got some decent units that are able to hold the lines here, but that was about it. So with the Hospitallers, you only need to hold 30 regions, and you can do that pretty fast. So by turn 65, I had pretty much secured all of this, and I was thinking, okay, let's finish the game. So I compiled all my armies, came up here, and you can see that the Ottomans are trying to get here in time, but it is too late, and I'm about to finish the game. Diplomacy, I'm at war with the Ottomans. I have kind of a nice little anti-Ottoman league going here, but they're doing pretty well. I mean, they've wiped out half of Wallachia. They've wiped out most of the Kandarids. They've pushed into Serbia. The Serbians are about to be destroyed. They've really weakened the Albanians. So the Ottomans are doing really well in this game, I would say, but we are about to win the game. So let's take over here. Was there one more thing I needed to show? I can't remember. Yeah, but we're gonna liberate Constantinople and win the game as the Knights Hospitaller. So there we go, victory. All right, so there we go. We're gonna continue playing. So definitely a fun faction. A very, I would say, an easier campaign if you use that little kind of cheat I was telling you about with the Ottoman diplomacy AI bug. What I should do is I should play as Rhodes again, but this time not use that glitch and see how much harder it is. I can imagine it's gonna be a lot harder. So I think next I'm gonna play as Epirus and play honestly, you could say, and see how that goes. But yeah, definitely a really great faction, kind of iconic. I mean, you're the Knights of Rhodes. Go do what they need to do, and that's pretty much it. So that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'm gonna be going through all the factions for this mod. I believe I'm gonna try to, at least. It's a little bit of work, but it's a lot of fun and it's worth it. I love this mod and it needs more attention. If you enjoy 14th, 15th, and 13th medieval history, I have a podcast called the Timur Podcast, in which I cover the life, conquests, character, and legacy of Amir Timur, or Tamerlane, as he's known in the West. And we are currently about the year 1382. So check that out if you want to. You can see the information in the description below. And actually, Timur's story is somewhat connected with the Knights Hospitaller. You can see over here, the fortress of Izmir is but a shadow of what it once was, because about 62 years earlier or so, Timur destroyed it and took it from the Hospitallers. Anyway, a little bit of history for you there. So that's about it. I will see you next time. Take care.